You know her voice. Now hear her story. Sandi Patty reveals the dark secrets she hid on stage. Plus, Hurricane Florence destroyed their home. See how CBN's Helping the Home Front came to their rescue.
Speechless. Thank you. Made her day.
Those stories and more on today's 700 Club Interactive. Well, welcome to the show. The midterm elections are over, but one video from President Trump's campaign rallies is still going viral.
The Missouri woman collapsed during the president's speech last Monday. When the president became aware of the situation, he paused for 6 minutes while emergency workers cared for her. And during that time, he asked the crowd to say a little prayer. Well, soon after, the crowd spontaneously broke out into Amazing Grace. Take a look.
It's a wonderful thing to do in that moment.
Definitely.
Well, we are sad to report that an American missionary to the Central African nation of Cameroon was shot and killed last week. Charles Wesco, his wife Stephanie, and their 8 children had been in the country for only a few weeks when the tragedy occurred. It appears that Wesco was caught up in a crossfire between security forces and separatist rebels.
After her husband's death, Stephanie posted a heartbreaking message to her friends and family back home. My precious husband, Charles, is now with the Savior he adored and faithfully served for many years. His life focus was seeking to cause others to love Jesus and serve him. My prayer is that somehow, some way, Jesus will be glorified through my precious Charles' death, and that God will not let his death have been in vain. He is receiving the martyr's crown from his Lord. My heart is broken. I want to wake up from a horrific nightmare. Please pray for us.
Well, the family is now safely returned home to Indiana, and a GoFundMe page was set up to help the family cope with this untimely and tragic loss. So far, a little over $100,000 has been raised, and if you'd like to help the family, just go to GoFundMe.com and search for Charles Wesco Family. And that would be an awesome thing to do.
What a tragic, tragic situation. I just can't imagine, on top of losing your spouse, having 8 children to care for and to walk through the process of grieving, and then to figure out how to get out of the country.
Yeah, and now what do you do? How do you go on? Well, we do have some good news coming out of Cameroon. 78 Christian school children who were kidnapped from the Presbyterian Secondary School in Bamenda, early Monday morning have been returned.
As you can imagine, parents were eagerly waiting to see their children following that terrifying ordeal. A spokesman for the Presbyterian Church said the students looked, quote, tired and psychologically tortured. He told the BBC the kidnappers didn't want ransom. They demanded the schools be closed. So the schools agreed to close down, sending all 700 children home.
Unfortunately, the principal and a teacher are still being held by the kidnappers, and we need to pray for their safe return and for peace in Cameroon. Hundreds have died in brutal clashes between the state and separatist groups in recent months, and what a telling thing. They want a Christian school to close. That's the whole reason for kidnapping children. It just makes no sense to you. But that's the world we're living in, and how many things can we say right here in America have made no sense just in the past couple of months? We need to pray and pray earnestly that peace would come, not just here, but around the world. Well, he was called a holy hero, a prophet, and a writer with a Christ-soaked imagination. Christian author Eugene Peterson, best known for his famous The Message Bible, passed away recently at the age of 85.
Well, at the memorial service last Saturday, his son Leif revealed that for years his father fooled everyone, adding that he used to joke with his dad, teasing him that he only had one sermon, that despite decades of creatively sharing the Bible with people in new ways, he was really just saying the same thing.
Leif said that he knew the sermon well, since his father had been telling him the same message his whole life over and over. What was the message? God loves you. He's on your side. He's coming after you. He's relentless. And that's a wonderful message for the world. Yes, God indeed does love you. He's after you. He's relentless. And for this, realize that what great love he has, that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us.
Yeah. Well, 1 year after a shooting took the lives of 26 people at the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas, a special service was held last Sunday to remember those who died and to remind survivors that evil did not win that day.
Well, Pastor Frank Pomeroy, he lost his 14-year-old daughter, Annabelle. He encouraged his church to keep looking up and focus on serving others. He added, there's no reason to stay anchored in the past because the Lord is alive. As a whole, we are healthy, doing well. I've never walked into a church and felt the Spirit so strong.
Texas Governor Abbott told the members to keep looking to the Lord for strength, guidance, and healing. Since the shooting, the church has been meeting in a temporary metal building. Construction on their new worship center will be completed by spring 2019.
That's a message for all of us. So often in tragedy, we get so focused on the past, we get so focused on the moment. And here's a pastor who lost his own daughter saying, let's look to help others. And in that, you actually find salvation for yourself. You can find healing for yourself. Well, country music star and American Idol runner-up Lauren Alaina recently posted this picture on Instagram with a caption recounting her stepfather's last moments before he passed away from cancer.
Lauren writes, my stepdad Sam went to heaven at 1 o'clock this morning. His last few hours were some of the most amazing moments I know I will ever have the privilege of witnessing. He opened his eyes last night and he said, Jesus. And we said, what do you see, Sam? He said, it's so beautiful. Mom asked him who he saw and he told her a bunch of people, including his mama. He later said, I love you all. I found it. My mom asked him what he found and he said, heaven, I've got to go. And an hour later, he went to be with the Lord. I want this story to be an example of how real God is. We're only here for a short amount of time, and we have to live like there is no tomorrow. And boy, she's right about that.
We have to live with heaven in mind.
Yes.
That's our destination. Great truth. We come from God, and we're going back to Him, and our time here is
Remarkably short.
Terribly
Yes.
short.
Exactly. Well, coming up, we all know and love her voice, yet she admits for years she felt voiceless. Sandi Patty opens up about the childhood secret that tried to silence her. She joins us live after this. Millions of people around the world have been blessed by the voice of Sandi Patty, and yet, off the stage, Sandi struggled to have a voice at all.
Sandi Patty is the most awarded female vocalist in contemporary Christian music history. Yet for decades, she struggled to find her voice because of a dark secret she had locked away. When she was only 6 years old, Sandi was sexually abused by a family friend who was also a first-grade teacher. In her book, The Voice, Sandi shares how she sang to millions about God's love when she hardly believed it herself.
Well, Sandi Patty joins us now, and it's so wonderful to have you here.
So great to be here.
I knew of you before I knew you because your mom and dad and I are dear friends.
I know. It's just
But they were so proud of you.
they're just the best.
They are the best.
They
They're
have
dear
sent their
people.
love to you as well.
That's so nice, Sandi. Talk a little bit. In the book, you reveal you've talked about other personal things in your life and your journey with the Lord, and that's always so helpful to other people who are struggling when someone that's visible says, I struggle too. But in this book, you share a secret that you kept hidden for a long time of things that happened to you when you were 6 years old. Will you talk about that?
I will. You know, I was a shy kid and words were hard for me. So my voice was already quiet. But at 6 years old, sexual abuse by a female family friend entered my world, and my quiet voice suddenly became silenced. We didn't have tools to know how to process that. My parents, bless their hearts, they didn't know, signs to look for or anything like that. I never told my parents until I was about 35.
Wow.
Because you believe the lies and that you did this, you're the one who brought this on. No one will believe you, you'll be in trouble.
And there's a shame factor in it all there's something about shame that is so deeply wrenching that just talking about something like that's happened is painful.
Yes, our friend Sheila Walsh says, guilt is saying you did something wrong. Shame is saying you are that something wrong.
Wow.
And so, yes, I think I walked through it. Just, it's embarrassing. It's shameful. Should I have stopped it? Should I have done something different? And a 6-year-old doesn't have any of the capabilities to process any of that.
Well, plus you say in the book, and it's so true, at that point in time, we didn't have cell phones, there weren't computers, your mom and dad were out of town. At 6, you just trust that everything's going to go well, and if it doesn't, who do you go to?
Right. Because the person you is supposed to protect you, an adult, is the one who violated that. And so it's a strange sort of dance you do in your head, and I found that it was just easier to sort of stuff it all away.
Yeah. But we think we're doing that.
Exactly.
But it doesn't really work. How did what happened to you at 6 impact your life for the years that followed?
Well, I think certainly the biggest thing is my lens of what was real and true was very broken and shattered. And so I believed what was true was that I was worthless. It was my fault. If I tell, something will happen again, or no one will believe me. And if they believe me, it'll be my fault. So my default was to just, I'm a broken person. I'll just go ahead and take the blame ahead of time, because the lens with which I saw the world was shattered.
Yeah. What made you decide to bring it out now? How did you finally get the courage to say, you know what, I need to tell this?
Well, I've done a lot of work for about the last 25 or 30 years. And, this is not a story that just reveals itself and resolves itself all at once.
Right.
So I've worked with a Christian counselor, with a group of...
It's your own healing and finding wholeness again.
And in Women of Faith, the last few years with my Women of Faith journey, they invited me to speak. And so I began to share a little bit about this. But I feel like because I have grown and been encouraged by other people who've come before me, who've shared their stories that maybe aren't real pretty, that maybe if now is it my turn, is the baton to me, where I want to pass down to the next generation that you're not alone and there is hope through it.
Sometimes it's the only way you can make sense out of it. It's often the only way God can use it, because you're releasing it to Him with trust.
Yes.
But speaking of trust, who you begin to tell about something that's so deeply wounded you matters. How did you, what are some parameters that people can put on that?
Because yes, telling the wrong person can just add to the abuse.
Absolutely.
And so I often will say, I think the best way to begin to speak up is to begin listening.
Yeah.
And you start listening to the people around you. And you start listening to what they share about their stories. Has God been faithful? What did they learn? How are they different?
Yeah.
Those are the people that you can probably begin to identify as safe people, and you can begin there, and hopefully they can walk you.
Sandi, when we're broken, we're attracted to someone. We're not usually attracted to people who are whole and healthy. You experienced that in your first marriage. And so he had his brokenness and you had your brokenness, and what happened?
Broken people, unfortunately, create a broken marriage.
Yeah.
And we, to this day, I talked to him last night about one of our kids. as parent, we're a lot better a parent unit than we were a married unit. And sometimes when you grow, it becomes uncomfortable for people around you
Boy, that's
who
the
are
truth.
used to you one way, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's like, you never said that before. Why are you saying that now? So
Well, also, can I say, in the church, divorce is kind of the unforgivable sin. You know, it's like we get painted and tainted in a way. And you know, it's not always people's business to know the private things that go on in our lives. So you went through this time of divorce. I'm sure you went through all kinds of finger pointing and labeling and all of that. And yet today, you and your husband have been married for 23 years. And you've got 8 children.
When we got married, I had 4 kids. He had 3. And then we adopted our youngest one. And now we added 5 fabulous in-laws.
Wow.
And 3 grandkids.
How wonderful.
So we are a party of 18 everywhere we go.
But I know that wasn't an easy process because you were still in a place of finding some healing for yourself.
Yes.
How in the world did you blend all of that together
Yeah.
into a small village of 18?
Yes. When we figure that out, I'll let you know. You know, it's kind of
Still
one of
in
those
process,
things.
I see.
You know, one thing we did learn early on, and Dawn and I get a chance now to speak to blended families. Every blended family is born out of loss.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not bad. It just is.
Yeah, it's reality.
And you have to just kind of accept that and grieve that, and then let that blended family begin to take its own unique shape and speak its own unique voice.
Your book titled The Voice, the subtitle is Listening for God's Voice and Finding Your Own. What advice do you give to people who are maybe struggling to come through a broken time and figure out what their voice is and how to find God in the midst of it?
Well, one of the things that was really important to me, and thankfully to the editor and publisher, is at the end of every chapter, there's sort of a springboard page of questions and thoughts for that very reason. Yeah. Whether it's to journal those answers or to study with a group of women, but to just begin asking those questions. That's one of the best ways to just begin to start the conversation with yourself.
Well, I just want to say to those of you who are watching right now, if you find yourself in a place where you don't know what your voice is and you're not sure what God has to say about your situation, Sandi's new book called The Voice, Listening for God's Voice and Finding Your Own, is available wherever books are sold. You know, when somebody has walked through an experience themselves, their wisdom and advice is just rich. I suggest that you get the book, The Voice. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Terry.
How wonderful to see you again.
Likewise.
Bless
Thank
you.
you so much.
Gordon?
Well, still ahead, Hurricane Florence wiped them out.
We had nice things and a nice house, and now it's all gone, and we have to start over.
See how CBN's Helping the Homefront helped this couple get back on their feet. You don't want to miss this feel-good story. Stay with us. Ever since Hurricane Florence flooded their rental home, Jim and Rose Langwell have been living in a camper with their 3 children. All the family's belongings were ruined, and to replace them, the couple would have to go deep into debt. Well, that's at least what they thought, until they received some great news from CBN's Helping the Homefront.
Jim Langwell and his wife Rose are dedicated to serving their community and country. She's in the U.S. Air Force. He works as a sheriff's deputy in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Neither ever imagined they'd be the ones asking for help after Hurricane Florence flooded the home they were renting. This pile of rubble is all that's left of their belongings.
It's hard. We've both worked our whole lives to get where we are, and we had nice things and a nice house, and now it's all gone, and we have to start over.
Since the storm, Jim, Rose, and their 3 kids have been living in this borrowed camper. It sits on her sister Dawn's and her husband Randy's property. Despite that part of Randy and Dawn's roof blew off their own home and the master bedroom destroyed, they took the Langwells in.
I'm eternally grateful for it. I will do anything to try and repay them for this. I mean, it's just huge.
Jim and Rose hope to move into another rental home soon. But even when they do, they won't have anything unless they buy what they need on credit.
We finally had paid stuff off. We finally didn't owe anyone or any bank or anything. We were in a really good spot, a really comfortable spot, and then just in a blink of an eye, now we're facing that again.
We struggled before, and God always pulls us through, so I'm hopeful.
Their situation was about to change because the Lord's Table Church contacted CBN's Helping the Homefront.
Being a nationwide organization, worldwide organization, have so much more resource than the local churches do. And so for them to come alongside of us to help a family like this to that level it is awesome.
Pastor Ken Jefferson stopped by for a visit.
We want to make sure that you can replace a lot of the things that you've lost. So we want to give you some commissary and exchange gift cards. So $2,500 worth of that. So.
Thank you.
Pastor Ken wasn't finished.
In a way to help you guys get back on your feet, we want to take care of your deposit and first month's rent when you find a place.
Speechless. Thank you. Made her day.
And there was one more surprise.
And then later today, we're going to take you to Ashley Furniture, and they want to make sure you guys have all the furniture you need for your new house. So putting your heads on real beds, sitting on real couches, real dining room tables.
I'm speechless.
Awesome.
It was then that Pastor Ken told them CBN's Operation Blessing was going to help Rose's sister and brother-in-law.
They have gotten some help from Operation Blessing so that they can help your family as well.
It's amazing. I can't believe it.
It's overwhelming.
Back outside, they told Randy and Dawn that Operation Blessing was going to pay to fix all the damage to the roof and master bedroom.
Get you where you need to go, man.
I don't even know what to say. I really don't. Thank you, man. How about that?
Good for me.
Thank you guys
Good
so
for me,
much.
man.
Afterwards, they headed to Ashley's to pick out furniture for their new home. Ashley's was more than happy to provide a deep discount to honor the couple's service.
I am grateful for CBN because this really means a lot.
You can be a part of it. If you're a member of the 700 Club, you're already a part of that. But if you want to make a special gift to Helping the Homefront, all you have to do is call us. 1-800-700-7000. Say, I want to help our active duty military families. We need to recognize that if you have a spouse, if you have a parent working in our military, you're serving too. And so we want to help you. So when there's more month than money, when disasters strike, we want to come alongside and let you know we're supporting you and we're honoring your service as well. So there's the address, Helping the Homefront, CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. You can call us, 1-800-700-7000. Just say, I want to designate my gift to Helping the Homefront. There's also a place on cbn.com. Just click through to the giving page, and there's a place for special gifts if you want to do a gift to Helping the Homefront. There are a lot of different ways to do it. Any way you do it now. 1-800-700-7000. Here's a verse from Job. It's from chapter 37, verse 5. God's voice thunders in marvelous ways. He does great things beyond our understanding. Sometimes he speaks in that still small voice, but sometimes he speaks with the voice of thunder, where he just comes crashing in. We all love those moments, whether it's the still small voice, whether it's the voice of thunder, whether it's just his voice speaking throughout creation. Look up today and realize God is with you. He is relentlessly pursuing you. He loves you infinitely. He died for you so that you could be with him for all eternity. God bless you. We'll see you again.